Hey folks, Jonathan Bennett here, and today we are going to talk about something completely different than what we normally talk about. We're going to talk about Eurorack and modular synthesis, and particularly the Behringer Space FX reverb and effect module. This thing is, well, I got it for like $49.99, a ridiculously cheap price. And if you look at the reviews, they're not necessarily great. It is definitely an inexpensive module for a reason. But as I looked through the reviews and as I got it and played with it, it very quickly struck me that there is a single flaw in this, and that is that your FX send knob, even all the way set, so you would think 100% wet, can only get to 50% wet. And what that means is you always have your original audio input in the output. You're always getting your original audio in there. For a lot of sound, that's what you want, but for some sounds, particularly in the kind of Eurorack and experimental genres and just making fun sounds the way that some of us like to do, that's not what you want. And so I did a little reading on this thing and pretty quickly came to the conclusion that there's probably an electronic linkage between the input and the output, and it's not all going through the digital signal processor. So it doesn't all get quantized and spat back out, which means that there's probably a hack that we can do, a modification, to go in and decouple those to where we literally just get the wet signal out of it. And that might not be what you want to do with yours, but it's what I wanted to do with mine. I found it, by the way. It's a couple of really, really tiny surface mount resistors. I think it's 74 and 51, if I remember correctly. I'll show you a picture of exactly what those look like with those taken off. It's not terribly difficult. They are very small, but all you have to do is heat them up enough to be able to kind of scoot them out of the way. Just disconnect it. Don't bridge them back. That would probably not be good for your hardware. And you're done. And somebody on Reddit said, well, what does it sound like afterwards? And so let's go take a look. Here's my dry signal. So our full system here, our patch, as it were, we've got Mux Slicer giving us these voltages out. That comes over to the disting, which is working as a quantizer. We've got two outputs on the quantizer. B is every time the quantizing changes, we get a voltage over to the envelope generator of the Behringer 140. It's just an envelope generator. The output of that goes to the CVN on the 4-play, which is a... of course, that is a voltage-controlled amplifier. And then the A output on the disting, that is the actual voltage per octave output. That is going over to a chainsaw, which we have left and right, goes out also into the 4-play. We've got a direct line from the 4-play goes into channel 1 of the mix-up. That's what we're listening to at the moment. And then that also goes over to the Behringer Space FX. And I can turn off the dry, and we can listen to the Space FX. It sounds like this. So this is what just the reverb sounds like for room, which is actually not too bad. I'll go through a couple of these. Theater, it's a little toned down. Concert. Church, and of course we've got parameters we can play with. Move the decay all around. Get real cacophonous. Tone that down. Some of these I don't know yet what they do, like the shaping. Not real familiar. And then of course damping could be either bright or dark. I'm about to lose my microphone here, goodness. Options there, and then again we can add back in the dry to the mix if we want to. The beauty of using it with a mixer like the mix-ups, you can get it as wet or as dry as you want to. The FX send still works. I'll go back to wet. The FX send still works, but it's just a volume knob now. And there are a couple of these that are really particularly interesting this way. Of course, there's things like the reverse. You know, that's kind of a very different thing than it is. Very different effect, whether there's the dry signal in there or not. Have a straight delay, and echo, very similar to the delay. Just an ambience, and again, these are customizable with parameters. Some of these don't sound great without the original signal. I suppose it depends upon the kind of signal, the kind of effect that you want. Things like the phaser, the flanger, however you want to pronounce that. This one is interesting. The pan/tremolo. Right now I've got it in pan mode, and that is the depth actually. -100 is all the way to pan mode. You do it at leave that at 0, it doesn't really do anything. And then you move it all the way to the other way and it goes into tremolo mode. And again, that's super interesting and very different when you also have the dry signal in there. The pitch changer is very different. That one's even got a stereo effect in it. Some very interesting things in here. Very, very different effects with the dry signal in there versus not. I will cut in a picture at some point here to show you what the two resistors look like that you need to remove. With a decent soldering iron, it's not too bad at all. And in my opinion, it takes this little... I picked up the Space FX for I think $49.99, not very much. It takes it from something that's like usable in a few situations to usable in a bunch more situations. Especially if you've got a little mixer like I've got, it becomes useful. If you have even more of a mixer like the After Later barback, the Bartender, excuse me, with the barback editions, that's got an actual FX send on it. That would make this thing way even more useful. All right, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I'm going to play with it this way. It would be great to be able to go in and add a pot to turn that back on, but that's a little bit beyond the level of hackery that I'm going to do to it right now. Somebody totally could, though. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time with who knows what'll be next on this channel.